Hello everyone, and welcome to week 2 of English 120. Hopefully by this time you're starting to get the hang of how Blackboard works and you're starting to feel comfortable in our online assignment, in our online environment. As you've seen, I'm going to be posting these videos every Tuesday morning. You'll wake up and you'll have an email in your inbox, and it'll connect you to the this lecture right here. The lecture will talk you through all of the topics that I'd like you to think about this week and talk you through your assignments. Everything needs to be completed by Monday at 11:59 p.m. except for your first post in the reflection in the conversation. That always needs to be posted by Friday. That way we can have a real live conversation with people responding to posted responses. Hopefully, if this process still isn't clear to you, please make sure you reach out to me so we can set up some time to go over how to work in this environment. So this week we will be reading from the Portable Jack London. You're going to be reading the introduction and the short story, The Law of Life. There's also a link to it in case any of you were having trouble getting your books. This is the last week where you can use that. You're going to definitely need to get your books this week. The assignments you'll have this week, we're going to have a conversation about finding out who the real Jack London is. We're going to talk about the law of life. You're going to do a close reading exercise. That's active reading, where you're going to really read it and write all over the text. Then you're going to complete your first Launchpad assignment. I know there was some confusion about Launchpad. There were issues with logging in. I did send out an announcement which has the login access code and information about what class you're logging into. It's the exact same as our class online. But please let me know if you have questions after reading that announcement. All right, who is Jack London? I love to put this picture up because it's hilarious. Jack London, as we've read about, is a famous author, right? Born in 1876, died in 1916. He lived 40 short years, but during that time he wrote a ton of books. He wrote fiction, he wrote poetry, he was a famous news reporter. He settled in Glen Ellen. He grew up in the city. First was born in San Francisco, then lived in Oakland, then moved with his family all around the Bay Area, and finally settled first in Glen Ellen at the Wake Robin Lodge, then up on the hill of Sonoma Mountain, where he started buying parcels. Jack London's famous for his stories about the Yukon and the Klondike. He's famous for writing about the social conditions of his time. He's also famous for being a part of the Bohemian crowd. This picture of him in the swimsuit with his friend George Sterling. George Sterling was a poet, and it was his best friend. The picture on the right is Jack London on horseback on the first hill parcel that he purchased in Glen Ellen. That picture was taken by Charmian, his wife. The bottom picture is a picture of Jack London and Charmian at the ranch cottage, and they are looking at the reflecting pool there. That's the main house that they lived in. That's where they lived while they lived on the ranch. I have a picture of a wolf because Jack London's nickname for himself was the Wolf, and George Sterling, the man in his underwear, is the one who used to call him the Wolf. And beneath that is the Corliss engine. We're going to be talking about that as a metaphor for this time period in the late 1800s to early 1900s next week as you watch a video by the scholar Cecilia Ticci. So let's talk a little bit about Jack London, who he is, in our discussion forum. I'd like you to begin by actively reading the introduction from the Portable Jack London. Then reread the biographical essay on Jack London we read last week by Clarice Stas. Finally, actively read the following biography on Jack London from Jack London State Historic Park. Then, using evidence from all of these sources, that means, when I say evidence in this class, that means quotations from the articles, answer and debate the following questions as a class. Why do you think Jack London did not reveal that John London was his real father during his lifetime? How did society as a whole react to issues such as these during the early 1900s? Do you agree or disagree with Alfred Kansen's statement that the greatest story Jack London ever wrote was the story he lived? Do you think Laver or Stas agrees with this statement? Why or why not? What kind of writing did Jack London write? And what did you learn about this writing? Don't just say, he wrote novels, okay? Give us some real information. What did you learn, especially from Earl Laver's essay on the type of writing that Jack London wrote? After reading these articles, do you feel like you understand how Jack London died? If so, what happened? And do you think do you see any discrepancy in how it's documented in these different sources? What is socialism, and how did it affect Jack London's writing? What questions do you still have about Jack London after reading all of these texts? How could you go about finding answers? So please post your initial post by Friday at 11:59 p.m. Remember, your initial post needs to be at least 250 words. You also need to begin by addressing the class by saying something like, "Dear class." Please title your post week 2 and your last name. Then when you finish your 250 word post, sign your name. Thanks for listening, comma, Dr. Dunkel, okay, or smiley face Dr. Dunkel, or whatever you want to sign with your salutation. All right, so please have a great discussion. When you respond to your peers, and you need to respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts by Monday at 11:59 p.m., please make sure you take the conversation farther. Don't be afraid to add in visuals, links, videos, anything you've found that kind of extends it farther. Use evidence from the text to support the points that you're making. One more thing about this. What we're working on in this discussion is really to think about why, I'm a Jack London scholar and I have my agenda about Jack London. Earl Laver is a Jack London scholar and he has his agenda about Jack London. Clary Stas is also a Jack London scholar and she has her agenda about Jack London. So does Alfred Kansen. All these different people look at him from a different perspective. You, as a scholar, need to examine all of those perspectives in order to figure out what you want your own to be. And that's what I'm trying to teach you in this exercise, because as we go about doing research throughout the semester, I want you to think about, when you do research, don't just take it at face value. Ask about, who is the person who's writing this article? What do we know about them? Where is he coming from, or where is she coming from? All right. The next thing you're going to be doing for class this week is you're going to be reading one of Jack London's stories called The Law of Life. It's found on pages 26 through 31 and the Portable Jack London. Before you read, just like last time, I'd like you to think about, what is the title of this text. It's called The Law of Life, so what does that tell you about the text and who wrote it? We know Jack London wrote it, so that's a really easy answer. And what do you know about the author? We've been talking about, a little information about the author. It's definitely fiction. It's a short story, and it was first published in McClure's magazine, March 1900. While you're reading, please actively read. Circle words that aren't familiar to you. Look them up in the dictionary. Mark words or passages that make you think about things you have already read and explain how you think they relate to one another. Mark words or passages that bring to mind personal experiences and write these personal experiences down. Mark passages that you agree with or disagree with and state why you agree or disagree with the passage. Mark difficult passages so you can come back to them. Mark passages you really like and note why you like the passages. As you go, you can summarize the text if you're getting lost, but really ask questions all along the way. Ask the characters in the story questions. Ask me questions. Ask Jack London questions. Don't be afraid to do so. When you're done, please upload a photo of your active reading. That means take a photo with your phone or whatever device you have and upload it as part of your reflective journal for this week. Which brings me to your reflective journal. Each week, you're going to be given a prompt or questions to read and write about. For this week's journal entry, Actively read The Law of Life by Jack London and upload a photo of your active reading notes under this week's activities. Then answer the following questions about the text in a post that is at least 250 words. Use evidence from the text, that means quotations, to support what you're saying. Who is Kush Kush? Who was he before he found himself alone in the snow with a small pile of firewood? Where does the story take place? How do you know? What is the tradition Kush Kush is continuing by staying? What do you think is the law of life? How is Kush Kush's life shaped by heredity and environment, over which he has no control, and about which he can exercise little if any choice? How is Kush Kush's experience with fire different from the man in To Build a Fire? You can skip that last question, but keep it in mind as we read our reading next week. This question will come back. You don't have to do it though for this week. Your journal entry is due Monday at 11:59 p.m. You must turn your post in on time to receive full credit. Please make sure you use spell check and you edit your response before you post it. This week, Launchpad, we are going to have an assignment. By now you should have obtained access to Launchpad. Go back and look at my recent note that I sent out, the announcement in class. It gives you all the details you need to sign into Launchpad. Your first research module, Orientation and Overview, is due by Monday at 11:59 p.m. Alright guys, that's it for this week. Next week we'll be talking about man versus nature, understanding research as a conversation. We'll begin reading in the Bedford Researcher. We'll talk about the academic essay. We'll watch a video by Cecilia Ticci, and we'll read To Build a Fire by Jack London. Alright, I'll see you guys online. Please let me know if you have any questions.